I studied hundreds of hours of Tfue combat by watching it in slow motion in hopes to learn from his decisions and actions, only to discover something that has now changed how I fight my opponents in Fortnite, and what I'm about to show you might change how you engage enemies too. Apart from his insane aim, game sense, and mobility, Tfue is doing something much better than anyone else: evading. That's right, I would estimate that Tfue wins 30% of his engagements purely by being a hard target to hit, and oftentimes not taking any damage at all. So today, I'm going to break down Tfue clips that exemplify awesome evasion techniques so that you can see exactly what's going on and learn to incorporate these maneuvers into your own gameplay. I hope you find this video incredibly helpful. If you do, please subscribe to the channel and give this video a thumbs up. I've got a lot more of these types of videos coming up, and I have one video in particular that I'm really psyched about. It's a cognitive training video for Fortnite that will improve your gameplay just by watching it and letting your subconscious do the work. So subscribe to the channel if you want to become a better Fortnite player. Alright, now let's dive in. Keep in mind you can always adjust the video speed in the YouTube player if you want to slow down clips on your own. Let's start off with an advanced trick: clamber maneuvers. During close range combat, Tfue utilizes these to confuse an enemy and throw off their aim. An advanced trick is to jump up to a wall and begin clambering, then quickly 180 and jump down, shooting at your opponent as you fall. You can also hit a clamber during mid-fall to avoid damage from your enemy. You should get comfortable with clambering a lot during fights to confuse your enemy and throw off their aim. The Coney Crossroads warm-up map is a good place to practice this. Another advanced trick that's really helpful in this season is zipline maneuvers. Ziplines can be used to avoid enemy damage by quickly changing your trajectory, getting elevation over your opponent for extra headshot damage, or just peek shotting. You take no fall damage after ziplining, so don't be afraid to jump off mid-zip or at the top of a vertical zip. A great shot, as seen here, is to come up a zip, but don't commit to landing on the ground. Instead, jump off and take a quick shotgun shot, then fall down to reassess the situation. Now that ziplines are everywhere, you need to start using them in your engagements to outplay your opponents. Another dirty trick is seat switching and exiting while driving vehicles, which can be extremely effective. This one takes practice, but it's super helpful once learned. It definitely requires reading your opponent's next move and then reacting to it. But once you master this technique, you will become very difficult to hit in close range fights. The most simple way of learning this maneuver is by driving up to an opponent, hitting the brakes, and then exiting the vehicle. Take a quick shot at your opponent, then immediately enter the vehicle again. Drive a little bit out of reach from the opponent, and then repeat that action again. As you get more comfortable with it, you can start incorporating seat changes and exits to be even more unpredictable. Next is a fundamental tip that a lot of us really don't think about, but it's used in all of the following maneuvers. And this is avoiding the opponent's center of screen. Tfue is a master of evading damage by staying furthest from the center of an opponent's aim. Where most of us might strafe one way and then strafe back by habit, Tfue will continue to move in a single direction until the opponent actually catches up and centers on them. Then he'll move in a different direction. This allows you to abuse slow turn on controller users and forces all inputs to retarget you before they can deal damage. Next up, we have slide attacks, and more specifically slide hopping during combat to maintain momentum while fighting. If you have speed at the beginning of a fight, you should maintain it to make yourself as difficult to hit as possible. The way this is done is by jumping into a slide with speed, shooting at your enemy while you're sliding, jumping into the air again, then hitting slide again right before your feet touch the ground, then shooting while sliding again. Your accuracy while sliding is much better than accuracy in the air, so it's best to do it this way. In this clip, Tfue would most likely be dead if he didn't keep his slide momentum through this open field, as he'd be an easy target for onlookers. Same with this following clip. So as you can see, sliding is not just important for one-on-one close-range combat, it's also to avoid damage from onlookers. Alright, now we have glider drops, which can be used in combination with slide hopping. The key here is that Tfue does his best to hide himself from the enemy until he is a moment away from landing, and then he changes his trajectory quickly to throw off their aim. He also quickly jumps the moment he touches the ground to keep momentum through a jump, making him very hard to target, often called b-hopping. Back to a fundamental trick: movement within close range engagements. For For most of us, close range combat consists of simply mashing the jump button while moving side to side and trying to be more accurate than our enemy. But this is not very effective because it makes you predictable and your trajectory in the air is very easy to read. So instead, Tfue will mostly strafe during fights and then time his jumps in rhythm with the enemy's shot to avoid gunfire. During close range engagements, staying calm and keeping your feet on the ground is generally a much better move than jumping, throwing off your own aim, and making yourself an easy target for your enemy. Which brings us to our next tip, which is strafe tricks in mid-range fights. Two things to focus on here are hip firing to increase movement speed, and crouch shooting to throw off an opponent's aim and also reset your own accuracy. Tfue uses these all the time. He generally starts an engagement by hip firing to increase his strafe speed, then once Bloom gets too inaccurate, he aims down sights while crouch shooting to make headshots difficult for his opponent. And finally, one of the most important, simple, yet effective evasive maneuvers is cover peeking. This is popping out to deal heavy damage and then disappearing behind cover again to avoid damage. While this is a pretty basic technique, it can be game-changing once mastered. It's also something that can be used at any distance of gunfight and behind any type of cover. Alright guys, that's all I got for now, but there is much more to come. If you want to watch another in-depth Fortnite guide by yours truly, check this one out here. Now go get that victory royale. Shinobi out.